Hello class, how's it going? So today I'm going to quickly talk about essay number 1, and I'm going to show you a sample thesis that I wrote for this essay, as well as a couple quotes that I found to support it. That way you guys have an idea of the types of, basically what we're looking for, right? Then I'm going to show you how to format your essays. There are certain professors that care more about formatting than others, and I would say Professor Solinger is one of them, meaning he will take a point or two off if you don't format your essay properly. So I'm going to show you how to do that, because that also means that you get a free point or two if you just format your essay properly, right? And the last thing I'm going to show you is how to actually upload your draft to Brightspace when it's all said and done. So let's get into it. So quickly to remind you the question that we're actually answering here, it is, what is the relationship between your mentality, for example, imagination, memory, fears, dreams, etc., and your reality, right? So I would suggest, as you're writing your essay, right next to your header, put this at the top of your essay. Put this as if it was your title, right? So you remind yourself what you're answering as you're writing. Because I do this all the time, because otherwise I will forget what the hell I'm talking about, and I will go off the rails, and I'll think I finished my essay, and then I'll reread it, and I'll read the question again, and I'm like, oh shit, I answered part of the question, but not all of it. I started talking about something completely unrelated. So if you have the question on your document page as you're writing, it will keep it fresh in your mind so you know what you're supposed to be answering. So then I just copy and pasted. These are the exact requirements from the assignment sheet in Brightspace. So for your draft, it's a minimum 500 words. We'll talk about the formatting here in a second, or how to do that. The assignment is due September 19th. And late papers will result in a 1/2 letter grade deduction from the final grade of the first assignment for each day that it is late. So again, remember, the rough draft itself is not graded, but if you do not turn in the rough draft, that means your final draft will be deducted by 2 letter grades. So if you just submit a final draft, if you were supposed to get a B on the final draft, now all of a sudden you get a D because you did not submit a rough draft. So the reason we do these essays in stages is so that way you turn in stuff so we can revise it and improve on your writing. But if you don't give us anything to improve, then you can't really get better, So do the rough draft is what I'm saying. These are the requirements for the final draft. A little bit longer. It'll be 500 to 750 words. Everything's the exact same, except the assignment is now due on September 26th, so a week after the rough draft. So to start, you will need a thesis. So I think there was a announcement that said you could upload your thesis to that Google Docs to get, comments on it. So I find that thesis is really kind of, either students get it or they don't, and it's kind of tough to get it if you don't really understand it. But at the end of the day, a thesis is really just an argument. So the big tip of advice I could give you is take I out of your thesis. So for example, a really simple thesis, right, is so say you said, I think pizza is gross, right? Well, that's not a thesis, because somebody else can't argue what you think or what you don't think, right? So if you say, I think pizza is gross, well, sure, I'm not in your mind, right? I can't change that. But if you just take out the I and you say, pizza is gross, well, now all of a sudden you have a thesis, because there's plenty of people who think pizza is not gross. And so there's 2 sides to this argument, right? So just think of that. There should always be another side to your thesis. You should be able to say, you're arguing for one side, there should be another person who could argue against you. If they can't argue against you, if it's a fact, you do not have a thesis. Your thesis goes at the end of the introduction. So, you have your intro, you have ideally a hook, maybe you introduce the readings, and then you go into your thesis. And I am going to note that while you can change or edit other parts of your essay, specifically the intro and conclusion, say you write your entire essay and then you read it back the night before and you're like, I really don't like my introduction here, you can change pretty much all of it. But your thesis is the one thing that you should stick with throughout your writing. Because if you change your thesis, especially if you've written your whole essay, you may have to change most, if not all of your essay now, because, your argument may have changed and therefore you might need new quotes. So the old quotes that you found aren't going to work anymore. So I would say come up with a strong thesis and stick with it throughout your writing. You know what I mean? I will also have in Blackboard a video that will show you how to write a good thesis. I made it a while ago. I think it's still pretty good and up to date if you need more on just writing a thesis in particular. But I'm also going to show you a sample thesis that I wrote for this essay so you have an idea of what that might look like. So the sample thesis that I wrote is, while the world around us can affect our mentality, ultimately, our mindset has more power in shaping our reality. So again, while the world around us can affect our mentality, ultimately, our mindset has more power in shaping our reality. So this is a two-part thesis, and that's okay. So if you watch other videos on how to write thesis, then you might see like a lot of them are going to say, okay, you have an XYZ thesis, which is, if we go back to that really simple example of, pizza is gross, it would be like, pizza is gross because it gets cold, it is greasy, and it has too many calories, right? So you have 3 points that you would talk about in each of your body paragraphs. You can also do a two-part thesis, which is what I have here. And that would either lead to a 4-paragraph essay, meaning I have an intro and conclusion and then just 2 body paragraphs, or I could still have a 5-paragraph essay. I would just use 2 of my body paragraphs to argue one of my points. So I'd argue my point twice, but I would use different evidence to back it up, right? So I know, like, rewatch what I just said if that was a little convoluted. There's a lot of ways you can go about this. There's not a one size fits all when it comes to writing an essay, but I want to show you guys your options. That way, because students might come to me, and I have had students in the past be like, oh, is this okay? And they had a 2-part thesis and they thought that it wasn't okay and that they needed a 3rd part. But I was like, actually, you don't. As long as you're still hitting the word count and as long as your evidence is still supporting your thesis, you should be good. So another thing I note here is, like, notice how I use synonyms for reality and mentality, so my thesis doesn't sound super repetitive. So I highlighted them. So the world around us, that means reality, right? And our mindset does mean mentality, right? So I just use this here because otherwise I would be saying mentality and reality every other word, and it would sound super repetitive. And last thing of note is you can use this idea. I did not come up with this concept of the fact that, like, the world around us shapes us, but our mentality can, also shape, or has more power to shape the world around us. I don't think I came up with this, but you cannot use my thesis verbatim, meaning do not lift this straight from the PowerPoint and put it into your essay. That would be plagiarism, and while I don't give grades, you would likely get a 0. So just want to note that. You can use the concept, but please use your own language. So now moving on to the quotes that I found for this thesis. So the first part of it is the world around us can affect our mentality, right? So a quote I found was from Zadie Smith, where she says, "Objectively, all the same limits are upon me in Manhattan as they are in England. I walk a 10-block radius every day, constrained in all the usual ways by domestic life, reduced to writing about whatever is right in front of my nose. But the fact remains that here I do write. The work gets done." So this quote, it really shows that, like, the world around her, right, her reality affects her mentality, which I don't have to talk about this part, but which in turn affects her reality. So she feels different in New York City than she does in England, meaning her location, her reality is affecting her mentality. But because of that effect that it has on her, she's then able to actually write more. She gets done in the real world, right? So I could pair this also with some of my personal experience, right? So I'm from Seattle, and I could talk about how in Seattle it was very gloomy, it's very overcast, it rains all the time, right? And that had a big effect on my mentality. And I didn't really work towards many of my goals in Seattle, and I felt sort of stunted, I would say. And when I moved to New York City, by contrast, I, like Zadie Smith, also felt like I got a lot of work done. I've worked towards more of my goals. I got my associate's degree, right? So I did more tangible things in the real world. But it was because of that mentality shift, right? Remember, I'm arguing here that the world around us is affecting our mentality. So I would just stick to the part where I felt different, right? I felt gloomier. I felt more sad. I felt lazier in Seattle than I did in New York City. Ultimately, that had an effect on my reality, but I would be sticking to the first part of that. So the second part of my thesis is our mindset has more power in shaping our reality. And I found 2 quotes from Colson Whitehead. The first one is, "You are a New Yorker when what was there before is more real and solid than what is there now, than what is here now." And the second one is, "When I look up there, I clearly see the gigantic letters spelling out Pan Am, don't I? And of course I am wrong in the eyes of the old-timers who maintain the myth that there was a time before Pan Am." So specifically for the second quote, I would need to provide context. I would want to talk about his, I would basically summarize part of his story, say, he saw the Pan Am building all the time, and now he still believes that it's there, even though he knows it's not, right? And so he still calls it that. And the other thing I would want to do for my paper, just in general, is define reality. And I would explain that reality is not just what exists right here in the now. It is also all the feelings and the history associated with people and places, right? So say a new coffee shop replaces your old one, even if it's not the same coffee shop, we still carry, like, nostalgia and sentimentality towards that building itself because we have all these fond memories associated with the old one, right? So the feelings and memories that are attached to our memories, those are just as real as a physically new coffee shop, right? So if I defined reality as just what is in the now, right here, what I can physically touch at this moment, that is a different definition than our reality is also our feelings and, our sentiment towards things that we've experienced even in the past. So notice how those two things are different, and therefore a reader would interpret my essay differently. So by defining reality here, I'm able to make a stronger argument for my thesis. So that is all I'm going to really go over right now. I'm not writing a whole essay for you, but I've given you hopefully some ideas of the kinds of quotes that you would use to support your thesis. How am I doing on time? 10 minutes. Okay, not too bad. Sometimes I like to ramble in these and it's like 25 minutes and I'm like, whoa, what am I doing here? So quickly, I'm going to show you how to format your essay so you can get full points on this regard and you don't get like a point docked off for doing something incorrectly. So I'm in Word. I'll also show you how to do this in Google Docs in a second. So first of all, we have my heading, name, professor, class, number, and section, and then the date in MLA formatting, which in this case is like the date, 14 September 2024. You could also double space this. I don't think it really matters. I just prefer not to because it looks weird. So then, this is my essay. I love writing essays. And then I just copy and pasted Colson Whitehead's text here. I just needed enough to have multiple pages to show you guys how to do this. And then you don't have to have a title, but if you do have a title, it should be, right above the body of your first paragraph and centered, not underlined, not bolded, which I did not know until I took this class. So not underlined, not bolded, just the exact same, and just, capitalize all of the proper nouns and stuff. So what was I doing? Oh yeah, showing you how to, the one thing that you're going to be confused on, which most students ask me about, is how to add page numbers. So on Word, you're going to double click at the top of the page and it should bring up the header here. You'll go to page number and then you'll go to, again, page number. And you want to uncheck this box. So this says show number on first page. We don't need a number on the first page because we know it's the first page, right? You have your heading here, you have your name, you don't need any other info. So you uncheck that and then you press OK. You double click outside. So to get out of this window, you just double click in the body part and then scroll down and you'll see you have a 2 there. Cool. So the other thing you want to add is your last name. So then you'll click over here and you can type just in the header. And then you're going to right align that so it's next to the number. And I also like to change this to Times New Roman so it's all consistent. And there you go. So now if you scroll down, you have, my last name, Arceo3, Arceo2, and then at the top one there's nothing because my name is already here and we know that this is the first page. So now I'll show you how to do that quickly in Google Docs. So my Google Docs probably looks a little different. I have like a plugin to make it like dark on the sides here because I hate how like bright it is. So in Google Docs, you're gonna go to format, you'll go to page numbers, and like we did in Word, you'll uncheck show on first page and then start at 1. That's fine. Hit apply and it'll still have 2. So it means start at page number 1, but it won't show the first page, so it will actually be correct. And then like Word, you can double click on the top here and write Arceo. And again, I can change this to, what's it called? Times New Roman. And click out of there. And then scroll down. And there we go. Arceo 3, Arceo 2, nothing in the top right. So cool. So, excuse me. Now the last thing we have to do is actually upload this to Brightspace. So, if I'm in Google Docs, I'm going to show you how to do this in Google Docs because we want this as either a docs format or a PDF. So you'll go to, where is it? File, download, docs, or PDF. I'll download it as a docs, and that will save to my downloads folder. Then I'm going to go to Brightspace. I'll show you as if you had just logged in. You'll go to your course. You will go scroll down to assignments. You will go to the assignment you're uploading to, which is assignment 1 rough draft. And then I already uploaded something because I recorded this video multiple times. Wait, can I delete that? Okay, I can delete that. And that, so actually this is nice because I think in Blackboard previously you could only upload once. So it was like if you uploaded the wrong document for some reason, you like couldn't clear it. But now you can actually clear it before the assignment closes, it looks like. So you can go to add attachments. You add attachments again, upload. I'm going to go to what I just downloaded, which was this. Yes. Oh, no, actually, this is the same document, but it was just titled untitled document. So open. Obviously, you should name the document like Tannen Arceo -essay draft number 1. I didn't for the sake of time. And then just update. And boom, it has saved successfully. So once you're in there, you're good. If you're like me and you're like, oh, did I, do the right thing? You would click on this. It'll download this document again, and then you'd open that and make sure that you uploaded the right thing. I don't know if you can preview in here anywhere, but that's how you submit the assignment. So I think that's everything for this video. If you have any questions of what, like what you need to be doing, feel free to email me. My email and wait, where is it? Let me actually go back and I can show you that I have added my, my email and my office hour times into the Zoom tab here on not Blackboard. Oh my God, that's going to happen so much. On Brightspace. I have my email, my office hours, and then the link to my office hours, which will also be the link if you set up a time that's outside of these office hours. We'll just use this link too. And then once this video is done, I will upload this video, the thesis video, and a MLA in-text citation guide all here in my tab as well, so you have some resources to get started on that first essay. So good luck, y'all. I look forward to reading your essay, and I hope it goes well. Bye for now.